This is Greg Fowler for Online London, and with me is Gina Barber, who is a candidate in Ward 9. Welcome.
Thank you, Greg.
If elected, how many hours per week on average do you expect that you'll spend working in your elected capacity?
Well, when I was asked this question before in terms of what I am spending currently, I think I said 42 and a half. I don't think it's going to be any lighter for a councillor.
Do you think ward councillors are currently paid enough for the amount of work that they'll do during the next term of city council?
I think probably not. That doesn't mean I support a pay increase. It just means that I think it would be difficult to reward. Those who are doing a good job are putting in a lot of hours and a lot of energy.
London's governance model is currently undergoing significant change, which includes the elimination of Board of Control. Do you think that this will increase the necessity for ward councillors to inform themselves about issues outside of their own ward boundaries?
I think so now. I think we always do have to do that in any case because ultimately we all have to make decisions on the issues. We all get a vote. I think it will put more responsibility, however, on people to make sure that they fully engage in all of the issues that are citywide.
Do you live within the geographical boundaries of the electoral area in which you are contesting this election?
Yes, I do.
How many of your post-teenage years have you lived in London?
Well, I went to Teachers College here at 19. I left for a few years, worked in Hamilton, and then I came back here and I've lived here ever since, with the exception of the odd jaunt to India and a year that I spent working in Toronto.
The Strengthening Neighbourhood Citizen Task Force recommended the development of a neighbourhood matching fund type program for large and small community projects other than celebrations or events. Do you support that recommendation?
I do indeed.
What maximum per project amount do you think might be appropriate for the city to contribute towards it?
That's a tough one, but to get really maximum, I would say probably, depending on the size of the neighborhood that we're looking at, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000.
Do you support development of a community program to fund the creation of public art in public places?
I do, and we did pass that at council.
Should the city and its boards and commissions embrace the concept of making their data open and accessible to everyone as often as is possible, and adopting open standards for that data?
I absolutely agree with that, and I think the fact that we're starting to do that is going to pay off big time for the City of London.
When existing software applications have to be replaced, or when software licenses have to be renewed, should the city adopt the use of open source software whenever that's possible?
I've been raising that at council for a few years now, and I certainly think we should investigate more the use of open source and use it wherever possible.
Is the city's communication department being given enough resources, money and personnel to properly maintain the city website and to inform citizens in a timely fashion?
I think that probably we did recently do a new hire. I think that probably will help significantly in doing the kind of work that we expect of them.
Should citizens be able to subscribe to subject-specific RSS feeds from City Hall in order to stay informed?
Yes.
Should citizens be able to download the agendas of upcoming public meetings, including advisory committee meetings, at least a week in advance?
Well, we don't get them usually a week in advance, but certainly at the same time that councillors get them.
Despite the requirement of the Municipal Act that all City Hall meetings be public except for specific reasons, it's been argued that they most often are not because of the inability of the public to hear what's being said. Do you support the adoption of a policy which mandates the use of microphones in all public meetings at City Hall?
Yes, I do.
Do you think the city ought to be webcasting all of its public meetings?
Yes.
Should its boards and commissions be webcasting all of their public meetings?
Yes.
Should chairpersons of public meetings at City Hall have to announce motions and amendments to motions and the number of votes for and against those motions so that the public can understand what's taking place?
Yes,
Should London hire an Auditor General?
yes.
Should homeowners have to pay a percentage of the cost for the repair of the damage to underground infrastructure on their own property that's been caused by city-owned trees?
That one, I think I'm going to pass on. I need to look at that a little bit more carefully.
Do you agree with the placemaking concept of neighborhood gateways?
Absolutely.
Should there be increased user representation on the London Transit Commission?
Yes.
If the city is going to provide venture capital to businesses, should it be guaranteed a return on its investment in the event that those businesses become profitable?
Yes.
Should people be allowed to naturalize their lawns?
Yes, but not to include noxious weeds.
Are London's pedestrians and pedestrian issues sufficiently represented at City Hall?
No.
The traffic and parking bylaw prohibits people from using any sidewalk for any purpose other than pedestrian traffic, except as specifically permitted. Should downtown patios, which consume most of the width of the public sidewalk, be permitted?
I think we probably need to modify those so that there is just a little bit more accessibility for pedestrian traffic.
When closure of a public sidewalk for construction purposes takes place, what steps should be required to ensure that pedestrians are not forced out onto the roadway in a manner which puts them at risk?
We should be looking toward having certainly signage before so that people could take alternate routes. I'm not sure about whether some kind of an overpass might be needed as well.
Is the warranted sidewalk program sufficiently funded?
No.
Is the warranted walkway program sufficiently funded?
Probably not.
Old unlit streets aren't currently lit unless there's a local improvement program application and a cost-sharing agreement amongst the owners. Do you agree with that policy?
I think the whole business of lighting is a fairly controversial one because many homeowners don't want lighted walks because it interferes with their enjoyment of the evening.
Do you think special funding ought to be provided to London Police for the purchase of additional speed watch radar trailers and the cost of having the auxiliary police section deploy them on a frequent basis?
I'm not opposed to the concept. I just think it could be incorporated in their existing budgets.
Should the city be spending as much as it is from the federal gas tax every year to construct on-road bike lanes in London?
I certainly support the creation of on-street bike lanes and have no problems with them using the gas tax money for that purpose.
Should bicycles be allowed on public sidewalks?
We're working on a bylaw at the moment that would allow for some bicycles used by small children, perhaps by elderly, depending on the size of the wheel.
Should persons in motorized wheelchairs and other mobility devices that are on the public sidewalk be obliged to yield for pedestrians?
Yes.
Should the city install more bike racks?
Absolutely.
Is theft of bikes an important issue?
It appears to be.
Do you have any suggestions about what might be done to combat that problem?
Well, we may be able to construct bicycle racks that are more secure than we have currently. We did in the past have licensing of bicycles so that we could retrace them. I'm not sure that that's the way we need to go again, but certainly the more secure types of bike racks and indoor enclosures as well in some instances.
Do you think the city is currently spending enough money to promote its web-based ride match service?
I'll pass on that, not sure.
Should there be dedicated and discounted carpool parking spaces on downtown streets and in city-owned lots?
Yes.
Should every signalized London intersection provide advanced left turns?
No, not everyone.
Does the city currently provide sufficient funding for the community gardens program?
I think they could use a little bit more funding.
Should all dogs have to be muzzled when they're not on their owner's property?
No.
Should dogs be allowed at community events?
Allowed, yes. Encouraged, no.
Do you think people ought to be able to raise chickens in their backyards?
Providing that they can adequately look after them, but I think that's a fairly controversial one.
That ends the interview. Thanks very much.
Okay.